The water was freezing, and the man in her arms was not breathing. Maria held on with everything she had, her small frame shaking against the current. Someone on the bank screamed, "She can't pull him! He's too heavy!" She pressed her cheek to his shoulder, whispering, "I'm not letting you die. Not today." A final kick, a burst of will, and his head broke the surface long enough for hope to return. But that moment came much later. Before it, Maria Santos was 19, the smallest recruit to walk into Fort Braxton. People stared as if she belonged in a classroom, not a military barracks. She joined to serve, but also to prove a truth no one believed, that courage had no standard size. From the first morning, she struggled. Push-ups shook her arms, runs burned her lungs. Her rucksack felt heavier than she did. Whispers followed everywhere. "She won't last. She's a mouse." Thompson smirked whenever she fell behind. One night she heard him say, "3 more days and she quits." She stopped in the hallway, the words cutting deep. A long breath, a choice forming inside her. At dawn, before anyone else woke, she slipped outside. Cold air stung her lungs as she pushed through each step. "One more try," she whispered. "Just one more." Days passed. Her size didn't change. Her strength did, just enough. But her resolve grew faster than her muscles. Every morning she trained alone. Every night she studied under her bunk light. No applause, no witnesses, only her determination, sharpening quietly. Maria kept going because she sensed a moment was coming. A moment when someone's life would hang in the balance, and she would be the only one who moved. Maria rose before the sun, long before the barracks stirred. The air was cold, the field still dark, yet she ran anyway. Another lap, then another. Her breaths were sharp, her legs shaking, but she whispered, "Keep going, just a little more." She dropped for push-ups, fighting the burn in her arms. Every rep felt like a small battle, but she refused to stop. Slowly, the drill sergeants noticed the quiet girl who never complained, who stayed after drills to repeat the hardest tasks. One of them murmured, "She's tougher than she looks." Maria didn't hear it, but she sensed something shifting around her. Thompson sensed it too, and hated it. He glared at the training board when her numbers crept upward. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "She's faking it or something." But no one believed him. Maria's progress was small, steady, and earned. She still lagged in long runs. Her arms still trembled under heavy drills. Some days felt impossible, her body refusing to cooperate. But she had learned something far more valuable. She had learned to endure. When pain arrived, she met it with a breath. When exhaustion pushed her down, she paused, then pushed back. Strength grew quietly inside her, deeper each day. One evening, a recruit approached her. "Maria, why do you train so much?" She hesitated, then answered softly, "Because I need to know I won't break when it matters." He nodded, thoughtful, almost admiring. Maria didn't realize others were starting to watch her, even follow her lead. She wasn't the fastest. She wasn't the strongest. But something inside her had changed, a resolve forming, steady and unshakable. She wasn't training to outrun anyone. She was preparing for the moment when everything would depend on her. A moment rushing toward her faster than she could imagine. The 3-day field exercise began before dawn, the air thick with tension. The recruits stood in formation as Sergeant Don Morrison moved down the line, towering, stone-faced, a legend whose reputation made everyone stand straighter. Someone whispered, "That's him, the one they warn you about." Maria tried to steady her breathing, already worn from weeks of training, 72 hours, no rest, no shelter, just endurance. Morrison's voice cut through the stillness. "You move as one. You don't stop unless I stop you, understood?" Maria's reply came a beat late, lost beneath the wind. They marched into the woods, packs heavy, rifles slick with moisture. Maria pushed to keep her pace steady. Thompson shot her a smirk. "Try not to fall behind, mouse." She ignored him, saving her strength. Hours later, the sky opened. Rain hammered the forest, cold and violent, turning the trail into thick mud. The temperature plunged, stealing warmth and breath. Maria stumbled once, catching herself on a tree. "Not now," she whispered, pushing forward. Morrison watched everything. When he passed her, his voice was low but sharp. "You still in the fight, Santos?" She forced out, "Yes, Sergeant." "Then hold your line." Night crept in, the storm worsening. The forest grew darker, heavier, each step demanding more than the last. Maria's arms and legs trembled, but she refused to fall back. She didn't know it yet. But the worst moment, the one that would test everything she had, was only minutes ahead, waiting in the rushing water. The storm had turned the valley into a slick maze of mud and stone. The recruits moved carefully, boots sliding with every step. Maria kept her eyes down until a sharp shout cut through the rain. "Sergeant, watch your footing!" She looked up just as Morrison slipped. His boot lost traction, his body tilting backward, arms reaching for nothing. For a single breath, he hung on the edge, then dropped. He crashed down the slope, slamming into rocks that sent dull echoes through the valley. A recruit whispered, "He's not moving." Another choked out, "No, no." Morrison hit the water hard. The current swallowed him instantly, dragging 200 pounds of gear and muscle like dead weight. He didn't struggle. He didn't surface. "Sergeant Morrison!" someone yelled, voice breaking. The river roared louder, carrying him farther. The recruits froze, fear rooting them in place. "What do we do?" "He's unconscious. He's going to drown. Get a rope. There's no time." Maria's heart pounded, cold and sharp. Rain blurred her vision as she watched his head dip under the surface. Once, then again, longer each time. If no one moved now, he would be gone. Maria stepped forward. A small step, but it cut through the panic. "Santos, don't! The current will take you too." She didn't turn, didn't hesitate. "He needs someone," she whispered. A final shout rose behind her. "Maria, stop!" But she was already moving, already choosing as Morrison's body drifted into the darkness of the river, and the moment that would change everything finally arrived. Maria didn't think. Her pack hit the ground and she dove into the river, the cold slicing straight through her. The current slammed her sideways, but she forced her arms forward, eyes fixed on Morrison drifting like a dead weight. "Maria, get back!" someone screamed. "She can't reach him," another shouted. She ignored every voice. Stroke after stroke she cut through the water, lungs burning, rain blinding her. When she reached him, his head slipped under again. "No, stay with me," she gasped. She hooked an arm beneath him, rolled onto her back and fought to keep his face above the surface. The river pushed against her, dragging them down, but she kicked harder. "Left, Maria. There's a calmer pocket," a recruit yelled from the bank. She adjusted, teeth clenched, legs trembling. Morrison felt impossibly heavy. Gear pulling him toward the bottom. For a moment she sank too, choking on icy water. "I'm not letting you go," she whispered, pushing back up. The current eased just enough. She dragged him slowly, painfully toward the shore. Recruits ran beside her, shouting guidance, reaching out whenever she drifted close. "Almost there, Santos. Keep pulling." Her arms shook violently, but the bank was finally within reach. With one last surge, she pushed Morrison forward, and hands grabbed him, then her, hauling both onto the mud. Maria collapsed, coughing, chest heaving. Morrison lay still beside her. "Come on, breathe," she whispered. A distant rumble grew, the helicopter. Just as the medics landed, Morrison's chest lifted. A rough cough, water spilling from his mouth, eyes opening for a fleeting moment. He looked at Maria, shivering, soaked, exhausted, and he understood. She had saved him, and nearly lost herself doing it. Back at the base, Maria expected silence, maybe exhaustion, maybe a pat on the back. She did not expect the whispers. They started the moment she stepped into the barracks, soft at first, then sharper. She got lucky. Total recklessness. She jumped in without thinking. Anyone could have died. And then Thompson's voice, loud enough for her to hear. "Hero, please. The river did half the work." Maria froze for a moment, the sting hitting deeper than she wanted to admit. She kept walking, eyes down, saying nothing. She didn't want a medal. She didn't want applause. She only wanted to know she had done the right thing. But the doubt settled in anyway, cold and heavy. That night, lying in her bunk, she replayed the moment, Morrison sinking beneath the water, her lungs burning, the weight of his body dragging her under. What if she had failed? What if she had put the entire line at risk? She whispered into the dark, "I just couldn't let him die." No one answered. Over the next days, the air around her stayed tense. Thompson smirked whenever she passed. Others avoided her eyes, unsure what to believe. Maria kept quiet, training in silence, forcing the doubt to stay buried beneath repetition and discipline. And then, on the third afternoon, a messenger approached her on the field. "Recruit Santos. Report to the command office. Now." Her stomach tightened. Orders like that rarely meant praise. She wiped her hands on her uniform and followed the hall to the office, her steps slow, uncertain. When she entered, the room felt strangely warm, calm, still. At the far end stood Sergeant Don Morrison, alive, upright, fully recovered. He turned toward her, his presence filling the room. For a long moment, he didn't speak, just looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Maria stiffened, heartbeat loud in her ears. "Recruit Santos," he said quietly. "Come in." Her breath caught. She stepped forward, unsure whether she was about to be reprimanded or thanked. Either way, this was the moment she had feared, and the moment she had earned. Maria stepped into the office, unsure if she should salute or apologize. Morrison stood beside the desk, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he said softly, "You saved my life." Maria blinked, stunned. I just did what I could, Sergeant." "No," he replied, stepping closer, voice firm. "You did what no one else did. You acted when others froze. You kept me alive long enough to be pulled out. That wasn't luck. That was courage." Her breath trembled. A warmth spread through her chest, quiet, fragile, disbelieving. Morrison reached for a folder on the desk. "I've recommended you for a commendation. A formal one. You deserve it." Maria's lips parted, but no words came. He nodded once, slower this time. "And for the record, I was wrong about you." The weight of that sentence settled deeper than any praise. When Maria stepped back into the yard, everything felt different. Whispers didn't sting anymore. They fell silent. Eyes that once doubted her now lingered with something closer to respect. Even Thompson stopped mid-sentence when she walked past, his smirk fading as if he no longer recognized the person he used to mock. Her transformation wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was undeniable. During the next evaluation, the navigation test, Thompson tried to take charge, confident he knew the terrain. He led the team straight into a dead zone, wasting precious time. Panic crept into the group. Maria studied the map, noticed the subtle incline, the shift of the tree line, the creek bending off course. "This way," she said quietly. Thompson scoffed. "You sure?" "Yes," she answered steady. "If we cut left now, we'll hit the ridge in under 10 minutes. Something in her voice made the others follow. They reached the checkpoint with seconds to spare. One recruit clapped her shoulder. "Damn, Santos, you saved us again." Another said, "She's not a mouse. She's a compass." Maria felt a small smile tug at her lips, humble, tired, but real. For the first time, she wasn't trying to prove herself. She simply was herself, and that was enough to change the entire unit. Graduation day arrived under a clear, steady sky. Rows of recruits stood in formation, boots polished, uniforms crisp, hearts pounding with the weight of everything they had endured. Maria stood among them, small, quiet, steady, yet nothing about her felt small anymore. When her name was called, she stepped forward to receive her awards: academic excellence, resilience, leadership potential. Each certificate felt unreal in her hands, as if they belonged to someone she had been fighting to become. Then she saw Morrison walking toward her. He carried a small box, simple but deliberate. When he opened it, a silver compass rested inside, its surface engraved with careful precision. He placed it in her palm and said softly, "Courage comes in all sizes." The words landed with a weight that almost made her breath falter. For a moment, the entire parade ground went still. Morrison's voice rose, firm enough for the whole battalion to hear. "This recruit saved my life, and she reminded us what strength really is." A low murmur swept through the ranks, respect, recognition, something warm and collective. Maria lowered her gaze, overwhelmed, whispering, "Thank you, Sergeant." Morrison shook his head lightly. "No. Thank you." As she walked off the field, compass in hand, she felt the eyes of the entire battalion on her, not with doubt, not with pity, but with pride. The same recruits who once whispered "mouse" now stepped aside for her as though she carried something sacred. She wasn't the biggest, she wasn't the strongest, but she had become something far more enduring. She had become an example, a quiet reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the person no one notices until the moment they are the only one who moves. Maria Santos left the parade ground no longer a small, underestimated recruit, but a symbol of Fort Braxton, a testament to heart over muscle, courage over fear, and the truth that heroes are built in ways the eye cannot measure.